Hello and welcome to this seminar with Richard Walsh from Germany, Canon Ambassador. Welcome to you, Richard. Great to have you.
Morten, thanks for having me. It's always great to come to Denmark, and I'm looking forward to a good program with you.
Yes, I will do my best, absolutely. The aim for this program is to hear about the Canon EOS R3 camera. Richard has used it from the very start, and he will show an example of his setup, how he uses the camera, and he will also reflect on the previous models he has been using in the future. So, Richard, maybe you should start by just very briefly tell about yourself and how you are, what you are doing today and how it all
started.
Went. Yes.
Thank you, Morten. Well, it started about 30 years ago. I was still in school, 16, a fan of photography and snowboarding. And in a nutshell, I put it together because my snowboarding was not good enough to get sponsored, but my photography was. So the camera was and still is the ticket around the world. I'm fortunate enough that I could go several times around the world. I was following the snow in the first part of my career, whether that's skiing or snowboarding, just chasing down these skiers and snowboarders the mountain. Then came sailing. I was the team photographer for the German America's Cup team, so I had a sport in the summer and the winter, and it just kept on rolling and rolling. And I have a name for capturing motion, something fast, tricky environments. So for all of that, it's important to have a tool that has the same pace and rhythm as you or as we are as photographers. And that's what we're going to look into today.
Yeah, exciting. We're looking forward to it. Yeah, so how should we start? Richard,
I think we start with a hot baby in town, and that's R3.
And you actually had a very early introduction to that camera.
Yeah. We just look at the model number. It's a very low number. That means it's one of the first models. That's true. When I get such a product as an ambassador, that's my job to take it to the limits, to find out what's in this box that helps me to take better pictures. And it's not so easy because these cameras get so incredibly good that you really have to find something very difficult to shoot.
Okay, and then it was up to you to find some kind of sport with the right action into it. How did you pick that sport?
That's correct. Well, I was thinking I wanted something that's kind of fresh and new and not been seen so much. And I found it. Let me show you what it is. It's a little video that will run in the background now while we'll keep on talking. And it's foil surfing. I mean, you all know about surfing, but what happened in the last years is that they put a foil, you could say a wing, underneath, you see it here in the film, underneath the surfboard. What happens is as soon as they start to glide, they rise out of the water, and then there's no friction. There's no friction. Mm-hmm. You name it more. Yeah. They go incredible fast.
Okay.
Plus, they do jumps and crazy tricks, and there's water and spray. So I think this is the perfect scenario to see if you get home with better pictures or not while using the R3.
Yeah, okay. Mm. And did you already have some contacts, or how did you find people to work with?
That's also, it always comes together. I take you to St. Moritz now in Switzerland, and this is a place where I've shot many, many hours on the mountain. And the guy who used to organize extreme ski event, he also organized this wing foiling event. And he brought these amazing athletes to the lake, and that's Balzmüller from Switzerland, Sarah and Teresa. Those two are surfers in the Olympic class IQ foil surfing. And I used this event to, on the next day, then bring these athletes to this beautiful lake. It's on the pass when you leave St. Moritz up to Italy. And there we found this hidden lake.
Okay. Used for that kind of surfing. You knew that there would be wind.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. It's kind of works like Lake Garda. There's always wind in the morning and in the evening, so it's quite stable. And it's just the scenery here. I wanted to get a picture with the mountains in the background, the snow, and the surfer. And here it is. This is the hero shot. You see here Sarah is doing a big turn, and she's full on flying over the water. I'm really low to get a nice angle to the action, and it combines everything in one shot. Again, the mountain, the surfing, and you understand that we're not at the beach.
No, okay. And how was the technical setup? Did you use extra light, or what kind of lens did you use?
I used the 11 to 14. It's actually an EF lens that with the RF adapter you can put on the EOS R3, and that's really good because you don't lose all your old EF lenses. With the adapter, you can work with them on R3, on the mirrorless cameras. Of course, the newest lenses will bring you an extra bonus, but the EF lenses work really fine. This picture is a perfect example why 30 frames a second make a difference. You know, you can really just pick this moment where, look at the sail, it doesn't touch the cloud, it's just in the perfect angle, and that's where this frame rate comes to real benefit.
Great, great. And it's a very low angle kind of you're using here.
Yeah, I'm actually in the water. You will see this later in when we go to the next images. I really always try to dress the same way as the athletes, so I can go as close as possible to the athletes. Mm-hmm. And when you work in these action sports, where the wide angle is your friend, and the lower you come underneath the action, the better the shot will look. It's also the more dangerous it gets, but lucky enough, I work here with really professional athletes, so that's okay.
Okay. Did you have any communication with them? Did they have radios, or did
usually I have radios, but since it's in the water, it didn't work like that. There was an assistant on the shore with a radio, so we briefed them. Then they did their turns, and they came back, and we briefed them again.
Okay, great, super.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Well, R3, it is the mirrorless camera, and it is the professional version. It's kind of like, it's the ancestor or the predecessor of the DSLR line, the 1DX, all the different numbers. And the big question is it the right moment for a professional now to go into mirrorless? And I can answer you, yes, it is. Because all the future development will be based on the mirrorless system. So if you want to be in the first row, you have to jump to mirrorless, no matter what. Whether it's this model or a different model, doesn't matter, but there's no way back. I had a chance to present the EOS R, the first mirrorless model, with the colleagues from Japan, and it was Mr. Go Takura, and he said, the engineers came to me, they said, if you want us to push further, we have to start with a blank paper. And that means they cut their mount, and that's, they have something between 80 to 100 million lenses in the market. So that's crazy. And that's also our professionals' money, because that's in the lenses, not so much in the cameras. But they said, if we want to keep pushing, we have to go to the next chapter, and that is a bigger mount, so more light can hit the sensor, and you see more of these golden nuggets here, more information that is being exchanged between the lens and the camera. And that's something when you pick up this camera, you immediately feel it's just very responsive to a new level compared to the older cameras.
Yes, but still with the opportunity to use old EF lenses with the adapter.
Yeah, with the RF adapter. Yeah. Remember, it's an adapter, there's no glass, it's out of the same company, so no third party. They know what they're doing.
But
and
you have still your autofocus and
yeah,
your aperture and so on.
Yeah. Everything. Yeah. And you even have this new ring that is on every lens that you can customize and program. I always use the ISO here, so you can use that on the RF adapter with that ring, and then you even have this new feature on the old lenses.
Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at your back or part of it. What kind of lenses do you typically work with?
That's the beauty of being an ambassador. You call up the colleagues and say, here's my wish list. And then you get it. You have to send it back, okay? But you get some really nice toys to play. So for this shoot, I was using the 11 to 14, as I told you, an EF lens, because it doesn't exist in RF yet. The 15 to 35, 2.8, the 28 to 70, 2.0, really, really nice lens, 70 to 200, 2.8, 100 to 500, and on the very right side you see the 800 f11. But we come to that a little later. Yep. And the flashes, the EL1, which is a really powerful flash powered by a Accu battery, so it has a lot of juice.
And a brand new model, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. And you have a couple of them with you.
Yeah, actually, on this shot, I only used one because I wanted to light up Balzers Müller's face. As you can see here in this picture, it's a backlit situation. And if you want to have the face lit up, it's one of the rare moments where I put the flash straight on the camera. Mm-hmm. Usually I never do that. It's horrible. But in this particular moment, this was the way to go.
Yeah.
I always now show you the making of, so you understand the geometry, how it works. And here you see what I was talking about, the angle. And a little later, I even jumped in the water to be even closer underneath the action. You have to be really careful when you work like this because these foils, they are like knives. So they can also hurt you, but you can only do this when you have trust to the athletes. Otherwise, it's a suicidal mission.
Yeah. Do you work on your own, or do you have an assistant on your side?
I had friends actually with me on the shoot that live in the valley and that supported me with the making of pictures and helping me carry in and all the stuff. Yeah. So depending on the shoot, usually I go to very remote locations, so I cannot bring a lot of people. Oh. But this time I could bring some friends that helped me to produce.
But while you're shooting, you're checking the images on the camera and that's it.
Yeah. Mm. I just, you can see it here. Very often, I don't even look through the camera. With a wide angle, I've learned how to hold it and to get the shot. Now it's even easier with a flip-out screen. You can still see kind of how the angle works. And that's one of the big beauties about this camera. It's very much lighter than the older models, so it's much easier to hold it with one arm. Yeah. Mm. Also for ladies. It's a smaller body, so I mean, to be honest, the older cameras were quite a beast. Yeah, so I have photographers, ladies that are friends of mine shooting, and for them it was sometimes hard. Yeah, and this camera is lighter, so it's a big benefit. But not only for them, it's also for me, it's not so much pain in the back anymore. No. So there's a true benefit of a lighter camera, especially when you start to work with it with one hand. And I remember the discussions with the colleagues, is this a good idea or not? Of course, a little more fragile, but it's a fantastic idea because we need to go out there and shoot something different, and that helps you
more
to
flexible. Yeah,
to be
we didn't have that at any of the 1D cameras.
Is that right? You're right. Mm. You're right. Yeah. So you see the geometry. I always try to get the element in the picture, and this is the water here, to make you feel what's going on and what's happening.
Did you rely on the automatic settings in this shoot, or did you shoot manual?
Well, to tell you the truth, very often I kind of fall back to some manual settings because I have so much experience that I kind of know what I want. But it limits you. And this time, my mission was to test this camera. So I fully went automatic. Of course, every shooting scenario, a different type of automatic. So I switched around a million times. But I gave the trust into the technology, and it completely worked. You really have to learn how to navigate this camera because it's so powerful that you need to tell the camera what you want every shooting scenario. But if you do that, you just get sharp shots, one after the other. It's kind of scary how much good images you get back with this camera. It's in a way too easy now. Yeah, I mean, if we're professionals and this is our living, it is a little bit of a problem, but that's why you need to jump on it and be part of this family and not be on the sideline and say, kind of like that.
You need to tell the customer that it's very complicated. Yeah. So this looks like kind of very wet conditions. How did the camera work in that?
Yeah, well, if you ask the legal department of Canon, they don't like this. But I think it's, you have to give the product a chance. If I know that the guy comes around the corner and it's going to fully smack the camera's water, so I turn around, and that means 80% of the splash will be covered on my Gore-Tex jacket. It doesn't matter there. and the camera hits 20%, and it's okay because these cameras are sealed, so a splash of water, a rainfall or something, it doesn't matter. But once that happened, take a towel and wipe it off. So what the camera doesn't like is temperature changes with water. Then you ruin every camera. So yes, it can take a hit, but then take care of it and go to the next one. You know, don't.
It's not underwater camera.
No, it's not. But it can completely do something like that. No problem at all.
Yeah. I'm curious, and you're coming to that image now, about the IAF control. Is that the Canon word for it?
Yeah.
Where you can track an object with the movement of your eye.
Yeah.
Does that work? Do you use it?
It does work, but it's pretty spectacular. We have to go a little back in history. When I started, there was a EOS 3. It was a film camera, and it already had this feature where it's called eye tracking. And back then it was very hot, but worked and didn't really work. But so imagine about it. It took the engineer about 30 years to bring it back into this camera, and it's back and it works. Does it work for every scenario? No. Do I still use it? Yes. When do I use it? Depending on the shooting scenario. Just imagine this is like a buffet, this camera, and it got a little longer, the buffet. You can choose, you have several ways to control the autofocus. You can just do everything automatic. You just hit the button. You can control the autofocus with this little sensor, which is very, very quick. You can do it with the joystick when you have gloves or something, or you touch the screen. And the next version now is your eye. The way it works is kind of like with the telephone. First, you have to customize, like face detection. Train the telephone how your face works. Here, train the camera how your eye work. So that's what you have to do first. Once the camera is calibrated to your eye, you just have to relax because it's kind of spooky. You take up the camera and then you see a sensor and then you see another thing floating around, and that's your eye tracker. Here's an image where it really makes sense. I wanted to get this Bernina train and the surface in one shot. The problem is they're both moving. The train is moving and the surface are moving. A camera is trained to understand motion and then grab the motion as soon as it hits the frame. But which of the one should it focus on is impossible for the camera to decide. And here it worked beautifully. I frame, the water and the train, and then I just wait for the surface to come in. I look to the lower right corner. The camera understands. They ping sharp, get the shot, mission accomplished. So scenarios like that where you have two moving things in the frame, this is your choice of operation style. When it's clearly one object and it's very, very fast, it's probably not the right tool. But when it's this middle speed and there's two different things happening at the same time, this is your solution.
Yeah. So it's a new tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just have to train with it before you go out and do it, and you have to use it like a sword. Sometimes it can be very powerful, but you're not going to use a big sword to eat a salami. That makes no sense. So just be very careful about it, and then use it wisely.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yes. What is this situation? Why are you in that level?
Because I like to swim. No, it's actually, this picture is important because it's kind of the secret of in a way, of my photography. I told you I want to be as close as possible to the sport. And that means you have to show the element, whether it is snow or water or sand, or it doesn't matter what it is. Get low, get dirty, get wet. Yeah. And it's just magic. Look at the next shot. You see, it's kind of similar shot as we've seen in the intro, but now you can really feel the water. Yeah. And imagine this is now sailing, and there's waves coming up and down, and they block your focus, and it's unsharp in the foreground. It really sucks you in. So I have a basement full of equipment just to be close with the sports I'm shooting. And that's what I really like to encourage you is analyze these sports, look at them on television or on YouTube, look at pictures before you go on assignment. Then once you're on assignment, look at the sport again and then start shooting, but really get close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yes. So to wrap up the R3, who would be the typical photographer for this camera? You almost already said it, but
well, it's we have to take one more look at the resolution. It's 24.1 million pixel. Yeah. So on today's standard, it's quite a low resolution. So the Japanese engineer designed these cameras for the sports photographers, for the Reuters, the Gettys, because for them, bigger file size is a problem because they need to move the images very, very quickly. Yeah. So if 24.1 megapixel is enough for your photography, then this is the perfect camera for you. If you work in advertising, you need more, maybe not. But in return, what you get the ultimate camera to capture speed, and it's rough. So it will not let you down no matter what you do. And if you're a news photographer, it's also is your choice, because also the way it connects lets you wire images. You're just a little bit faster than probably the guy next to you or the girl next to you, and you can shoot longer with battery power and toughness than other people can do. Yeah. And there's no way back. Mirrorless is the way to go forward. Doesn't mean that the old technology is bad, but if you want to progress, it's only possible with mirrorless.
Yeah, yes. But I'm also thinking of wedding photographers, fashion photography, which also very often demands high-speed movements.
You're right, Morten. And don't forget, this is a silent camera. If you put it on electronic shutter, it's basically silent. So all these scenarios where you mentioned weddings or a concert hall or something, you can still shoot with this camera, and it was not possible with a mirror camera because there's a mirror need to go up and down, and that creates some sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. It's also capable of all the video functions you need. It's not designed for there's other cameras in the lineup that are better for video, but it does the job. So it is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife.
Yes. Okay. Good. Before leaving the camera, maybe we should spend just a few minutes on the 800 millimeter lens. I think you brought it. That's kind of a special setup.
Yeah,
it's quite low aperture when you hear the data.
Yeah, Morten, you just said it. It's f11. So then as a professional, you would say, okay, thank you, I don't need this. See you later. But you need to give this lens a second try. Why? Because first of all, it's very small. It fits in your bag. It's very light. When you shoot it, you extend it. Now it's ready to shoot. And the beauty of it is the combination of this EOS R3 and the 800. You see how I could swing it around. It's so light. So if I stand on a boat, normally I stay on a little rip, so I have to balance the waves. It's very easy to hold and to navigate. And this was not possible before. And a 1DX Mark III and the 200 to 400 lens is such a monster. It costs a fortune, it's really heavy, and this can do kind of the same as long as there's light. So here you see me on the boat with the camera out in the water, and this is a typical shot. So this is handhold out of this little dinghy, and it only works if there's light. But in sailing, usually there is enough light. If you are indoor sports photographer, it's not the right lens for you. Then you have to go to the 2.8 models. Yeah? But if you
outdoor,
or if you shoot birds in the blue sky, then this is also very, very good. Why? Because the sensor is so powerful that today, whether you use the sensor on 200 ISO, 400, 800, 1600, makes no difference. It's so powerful that it can handle an f11 in many shooting scenarios. Let's say in my line of work, 70% of the shooting scenarios I can do with this setup. 30% I still need the powerful lenses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And don't forget the price point. This is less than 2,000 euros, and the other lenses are between 15 and 20,000 euros. So it's also about just having this in your bag, and when there's a moment, boom, you execute. Like, look at this shot, how beautiful the light hits these sailors, these surfers here, or here. You see it looks like they kind of jump into your face. It's this typical compression that you only get with a 600 or 800 millimeter lens. What makes these sports images so powerful, and also what's the difference between the professional guy and you trying to shoot with your 200 millimeter lens, kind of the same shot.
Does it have a built-in stabilizer? This lens?
Yes, it has.
Yes, it has. Yes,
yeah, it has a built-in stabilizer
and works together with the stabilizer in the camera. Yeah,
that's really interesting today that we have all the lenses that have a stabilizer inside talk to the camera. You know, remember in the beginning we need more connecting points, and they add up together and give you a better result. Yeah.
So you actually don't use tripods very much when you're shooting with this?
No. It's impossible in sailing. I remember my first mission, I was like the king walking on the boat, looking around. Nobody has a tripod or monopod. I'm like, you guys don't know what's happening? Then we come out, the first wave hits, and I'm like, okay, I know why. I'm hiding my monopod and never brought it again. But actually this morning, you know, I shot a picture of the city, and I used this function because I wanted to get the blur of the cars and the train, and the steadiness of the city, and it works really nice. You know, you're very flexible with this technology.
Good.
Okay, you know, I told you RF mount, bigger opening, crazy lens designs. That's actually what's so interesting about the future. Is look at this lens. This is an 85 1.2. I know we had an 85 1.2 back in the day, but the quality and the image quality this creates is just unheard of, and you cannot compare it to the old EF 1.2. There's also a 2870 to 2.0, which kind of gives you 3 prime lenses in one zoom lens. So they're able to come up with constructions, or like this one, that they could not do with the EF mount. And that is, they will continue developing stuff like this. So you see again, the future is in this mount, and that's why it makes sense to change to this new technology.
Yeah. Great. Good. That was actually the first part of our talk today, Richard. Thank you for that part. Let's talk about the older models and looking back on the development in the 1D family.
With pleasure. With pleasure. My personal timing fits perfectly to this schedule, because, you know, when I got into photography, it was the EOS 1N, which is, as you can see, 94, I think. So I started with the film age of the EOS 1, and when my career really started to roll, it was the digital age. So since 2001, I shot with every single professional EOS 1D in the lineup. Thanks again to Canon that they made this possible. And I just built incredible trust over the years to this, to these cameras. When you just pick them up and you put them in front of your face, it just feels home. It feels like you're home with these, the way it sounds and the way it handles. So I was also a little bit disappointed when I had to let go of this body shape and everything that's around it. But there's been some incredible journeys. You see again here, this is, you know, all the cameras I've used. So there's 20 years between the first EOS 1D and an R3. 20 years of development that brought us all the way here.
Yes, and you're showing names of many of the jobs you have done around. And where should we start to go?
I think we go to Kamchatka.
Yes.
Okay, it's Russia.
Yeah.
A little bit difficult today. Basically, it means if you wanted to go, you couldn't, because for political reason, of course, we cannot go there. I don't even want to go there because, you know, I don't want to support the regime. I have to say that the people I met there were really, really nice, and they probably still are really, really nice. So I think we have to make a difference there. But it was the last production before Corona hit. So again, for many reasons, this was very unique. The mission was to shoot an active volcano, not active by fire, but active by, you see the steam and smoke that comes out of the craters. And my sponsor for this trip was a company in Munich called Willy Bogner, and they have a sub-brand called Fire and Ice. So you see the fire, ice, kind of fit the theme, and they said, okay, we send you and a team on this mission to come back with images that we've not seen before. And as you can see here in the film, the magic lies in the combination of the skiing, the volcano, and the skiing in the ocean. And that's something you can do there. It's an island that's very, very north. So on the northeast side of Russia, the island has about 80 volcanoes, and some of them you can ski down.
And you already knew that place, or did you have a recommendation for it, or?
I just saw this image of this volcano with this steam. Let's go right there. It's the shot on the left where that's what I wanted. That's the hero shot. I saw this and I said, okay, let's combine it with an action shot. Let's get a picture of this working volcano and my friends skiing down into it. Yeah, that was the mission.
Okay. Yeah.
And you see, this is not the subway or the tube. This is the helicopter from the inside. So they used this crazy, I think, very old but reliable
kind of old looking
helicopters. And what's so fascinating there is the combination of these, the black lava, sand, and then the water and the snow, and you live this all in one day. That's what's so special about Kamchatka.
Great.
Which model was it? It was this one. It was the EOS 1DX Mark III. So it's the pinnacle of this of these cameras. A beautiful camera. We highlighted now the R3, but there's nothing wrong if you own this camera, or if you still want to purchase this, because it is it's the end of the system. So it has a really high level of engineering in there. It works really hard. I remember when I climbed up one of these steep slopes, I hammered the camera into the ice because I slipped, like this, no problem. The thing is with these productions is that if, I have to carry everything in a backpack, so I cannot carry 3 bodies. I carry one main body and a small, tiny backup body. So I'm relying on this camera to work through the whole day. On a production like this, we only fly to this spot one day, and you can see how the clouds are dancing around. So I only get maybe 5 action shots in such a day. And if I don't get this shot because I've used up my battery, or I have a failure, or error 99 or whatever, I'm basically screwed, because then I'm missing the hero shot of this production, and everything is for nothing. And that's what, all of these cameras really have in common. They never let me down. They never, I treat them like my babies or ladies or whatever you want to say, or my best friends. Always take care of moisture. That's what's important. So every time I come home from a production, put everything out of the backpack, clean it up, lay it down, say goodnight. Next morning, pack it back up and bring it back out there. But if that's what you do, they work beautiful.
Great. Yes. And should we stay in the north part of the...
Let's do that.
The globe? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did we go?
We jump over the Bering Sea to Alaska. I've told you that all of my career, I was... skiing is my thing, and free riding, whether it's with a snowboard or with a ski, it doesn't matter. And the best terrain you can ever go to is Alaska, because it's so steep, as you can see here, and there's something about the snow that it sticks on these ridges with super glue compared to our mountains here. So the risk of an avalanche is not as high as we have here. You see there comes these mini avalanches. That's called slough, because it's the top part of the snow that the guy sends down by doing a turn. So the trick here is you can never stop. Once you go, you go. If you stop, the slough hits you and you fall down the mountain. So you can imagine how stoked I was to be invited to this production. You're always part of a film team. You just sit next to the camera guy and you try to get the grooms. But the grooms are really nice and tasty because you're just in paradise when it comes to freeride photography. But the same story again here. These guys have trained for maybe 20 years to go on this production. It's the highlight of their 2-year film project. They wait for 3 weeks for 3 days of good weather. You jump in the helicopter at 6 in the morning, you fly out, you pick a run, and then that's your run. There is no warm-up. The warm-up is a black roll in the morning. It's the first run. It's the most important run of their life. It's probably they want to be, have the sickest part in the movie, and you're on the other side in a helicopter, and you need to get the trigger and get it done. And they're my friends, so I don't want to tell my best friend, say, I'm sorry, it somehow didn't work,
Let's do it again.
So here you can see the game, how big these mountains are, and they're short runs. We call it mini golf, and then the run out is perfectly shaped so they can, with a speed of 80 to 100 kilometers, they can access these runs.
Yeah, amazing.
The big question is always, when do we call the helicopter in and go? Because you have to pay, it's called a private bird. You have to pay this machine for the whole day, no matter whether you use it or not. And that's always big discussions. But once that decision is made and you're out there, look at it, it's just stunning and beautiful. And here you see the riders, how they are in a tunnel. They are focusing extremely on what's going to happen next. Once the helicopter drives up, they look at the slope, analyze it, and then once they set up on the top, it's so steep that they cannot see the ending. So out of their memory, they have to know where to go. And when something like this happens on the right side with the light, you're just giggling inside the helicopter. Huh? This is how it works. You sit next to the cameraman, is the guy in the black, and you sit on the right side. You're strapped in, and the communication is just waving the feet. So when he waves the feet, that means he goes. And
how was that, taking that picture? From another helicopter? Or?
No, that was actually from the valley. The setup is usually like this. Here you can see there's one crew, it's down with the long lenses, and one crew is in the helicopter.
Okay.
And I had I had the 1DX Mark II and the 1DC. That's more for video, but that was the second body I used on this shoot. And the way I worked here is I had one camera in the valley with a remote control. You see a pocket wizard. And the other one in the helicopter. So this is the picture I took out of the helicopter of Sven jumping down this gnarly ridge. It's all in one sequence, as you can see on the left side. Mm-hmm. And then the second image that is this one. And this is one of the highlights of my career. It's a super selfie. You can see my feet in the helicopter hanging out. You see Sven on the right side doing the jump. There's the clouds, there's the slow. It doesn't get better. It's a little shame because I don't know what to do next, but this is pretty much it.
Yeah.
And it's these two babies that made it work. Yeah, and it also speaks for the system, how you can connect them, and over a long distance you can trigger them, and you're just praying to Lord that the other one triggers as well. But it did.
Yeah, it's a quite far distance you have to the receiver.
Yeah, and it's cold. That's where the battery comes in place. This is actually why you use this camera, because you have juice, and you pack 2 or 3 of those, and you're done for the day. Yeah. And you know that there's enough juice in the camera. And the good thing is they kept this form factor for the R3. Of course, they made some magic, so it's now maybe X% more powerful, but you can still use your old batteries in the new camera, because this is what drives the day.
Yeah. Good. That was north part of the Earth. Should we go down south?
Let's do that. Let's go to Valencia.
Yeah.
We go to Europe. And I mentioned earlier that my second genre is sailing. It was a lucky punch. The guy who gave me the first job in the snow, he started the German campaign. He put the money and the talent together and formed the United Internet Team Germany. And he asked me if I would be the team photographer. I said yes. And then there was a process where they had to select from 3 photographers down to 1. I was most passionate and they got me the job. I think that was it. And what was interesting, that was in 2010. So it was still early in digital, and it helped me to learn the sport of sailing really, really quick, because every night I was going through 2,000 images, and I just learned really, really fast how sailing works. Skiing and snowboarding is faster than sailing, so with the speed was no problem, but to understand what the sport does and how it works, digital photography was for me the trick to learn it. Yeah, also, very powerful autofocus in these cameras. This is shot with a 500mm 4.0 AF, and suddenly there was a spray of water. I was focusing on the boat, but the spray of water came up, focus grabbed these drops, and it created a very artsy picture, kind of by accident, to tell you the truth. But don't tell anybody else.
No.
This is a typical aerial shot out of the helicopter down onto the boat. When you shoot straight down on something, it's magic. It's always magic. No matter when you from a bridge or from a heli or whatever it is, looking straight down is just a magic perspective. Yeah. And why do these cameras need to be so tough? Because sometimes this happens. When you see in TV when they Olympic Games or soccer games, and they run after the heroes. They have 2 or 3 bodies, and then they start to bang at each other. So this is kind of why you need the toughness for. In a helicopter up there, you also have 2 bodies around you, and you bang at the door. That the pilot doesn't like so much, but you bang at the lens of the other camera. This is the lower angle again we talked about. You see, it's the same thing no matter which sport I'm shooting.
Right.
And at the ocean, it's the salt water. So this is actually a really nice technical invention, this one, because it keeps your flash working. When you shoot very long in salt water, they start to corrode. So this little tiny thing maybe saves you a shoot because you put it on and you have your flash connection when you need it.
Yeah. Don't throw it away.
No.
Good.
So, that's quite a long time ago, and you can also do some magic because they were really powerful. But it's about taking this heritage and bring it to the the new technology. One more?
Let's have one more. Yes, very far south, as I remember.
Yeah.
Or are we in? No.
Ushuaia.
Tell us.
Ushuaia, we're as far south as I've ever been. I've never been to the poles, but I've been close, I would say. And it was, one of those magic moments in the career with Canon. They call me up and say, "Hey, Richard, we want you on this campaign. We're shooting our winter campaign." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not winter right now. It doesn't matter. We send you to Ushuaia." And I'm like, "Okay, can I go for a month?" "No, you can go for 2 days." And I'm like, 2 days, Ushuaia? Are you sure it's going to work with the weather? "Yeah, that's the way the budget works and the filming, and we're going to be a crew of 40 people. Do you think we can afford to send them in a hotel for 4 weeks? You have 2 days." Okay. In the plane, off to Ushuaia. and the idea was to shoot skiing. It's a sport, very, very crazy. Let me show you how it looks like. So it's a skier that's behind a horse. It's something that is very famous in St. Moritz. There's always a tournament, and this guy, he's the champion. He actually is a ski teacher from St. Moritz, and he was at a convention in Ushuaia for skiing, and then we organized those horses and him, and off we go, and we did the winter shoot in the middle of our summer. But as I said, we only had 2 days. In the morning of the first day, this is how it looked. And I was like shocked. Shit, how should I make this possible? But luckily, the film crew, they are on fire because they have somebody in the team who just gets the drill and gets them out of the door. So, okay, they're gone. I'm out there following them. And once you accept the way it is and you start to find the beauty in it, you get something really nice. So this was the first day. And the second day was a little better. And then that was the photo day. So it was a little easier for me to work. And this is also a very unique image because on a shoot like that, you have an art director. They show up in jeans. They are frozen after half an hour. But his mind is not frozen. You know, he's like, okay, Richard, now get me a close-up of the hubs. But, you know, I want the brown in the background. And I'm like, okay, how should I do that? That means I have to be like this much over the ground, and I'm afraid of horses, and how should I do that? Okay, then I jumped on the snowmobile and did the same thing as I've showed you before. I let the camera fly with a 24-70, this much over the ground. I just look at the ground so the camera doesn't hit the ground, and then let the camera do the job. You know, put a wide out of focus field, and just pray a little bit that the IF points hit the legs, and they did. Yeah.
So you were pretty close, actually.
Yeah, I was pretty close. I was maybe 3 meters away from the hubs, and it's very powerful when this big horse starts to jam. Yeah, but the good thing is I'm always so focused on what I'm doing with my photography that all the fear is left aside. It's also when you jump in a helicopter, you look at the pilot, you make a decision, and then you don't doubt that decision anymore. And if you don't have the feeling, you just don't go in. But once you're in, there's no time to worry about that anymore. You do your safety checks, and then you focus on your photography. Yeah.
Great.
Well, I think it's time to wrap it up.
I think it is. Yes, Richard, thank you so much for your amazing pictures and your stories about them.
Well, let's put the two bodies side by side again. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just we live in a time where progression is so technical that sometimes it's hard for us to make use of it. You know, if you're a professional, you need to have the latest kit because otherwise somebody overtakes you on the left or on the right. So I think you need everything. You need creative ideas, which is most important. You need to be a network. You need to be a nice guy or a nice girl. And you need to have the latest tech to stay in front. And no matter how difficult the times are, I think it's still important to keep investing and be on the front. Yeah. And so if you take that in correspondence, you don't need to wait. You need to get on this mirrorless game, otherwise somebody will overtake you. And that's now a threat, but see the beauty in it that you can challenge these cameras and get a picture that you could not get before. So, but you really need to challenge this camera. If you just do the same as before, you're not going to read the manual, don't get it, because it's never going to get you further. You're just mad at it because it's like, it doesn't work, and why did I spend all this money? You really have to give this camera a chance, and you have to push it as hard as you can. It can handle it, and in return, you get something amazing. And I'm still a little sad to let this go, but that's how it is.
Okay. Thank you so much, Richard. And thank you for you out there watching. I hope that you will step by or come by in Göker to hear more about the R3 camera. Feel free to do that. And thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.